My research design is on CTE concentrators versus all students on proficiency levels in math. The statement of the problem in this research design is that Perkins requires states to report annually on progress in achieving their adjusted performance levels on the core indicators of performance. So states are required to report disaggregated data on the performance of students in special population categories described in the law, as well as gender, race, and ethnicity. There is a need to raise the North Dakota proficiency level scores in math and focus on students who are CTE concentrators and their performance levels compared to all students. The null hypothesis statement that I have come up with is the sample of CTE concentrators who met proficient levels in math is equal to all of the students who met these same proficiency levels in math. And these proficiency levels are clearly stated in the Performance of CTE Concentrators North Dakota Assessment Report of 2013 through 2015. My directional research hypothesis statement is CTE concentrators who met proficient levels in math are different than all students who met these same proficient levels in math. My subjects are the 2013 through 2015 Performance of CTE Concentrators North Dakota Assessment Report, which is provided from the North Dakota Department of Public Instruction. And the data obtained are percentages of the two population groups in this study of CTE concentrators and all students who have taken the math assessment and met proficient levels. This data then compares the two population groups being studied and clearly shows the proficient levels met with percentages from both groups. Next, I'm going to cover the sampling and measurement instruments. The subjects include the population of all North Dakota high school students, and the sample comes from CTE concentrators within the overall population of North Dakota high school students. The measurement instrument that I used is the North Dakota State Assessment, which is broken down into content subjects of reading and language arts, mathematics, and science. And of course, my focus in this study is math. This assessment is taken in grade 11, so the sample come from students that have taken this assessment test. Students receive scores on the assessment. There are scaled scores which represent the number of correct answers factored by the difficulty level of the correct answers based on the total number of questions. And these scores then translate into proficiency levels, which is an interval level of measurement. And for this research design, I use a population of 100 with a sampling of 10. The scale is 1 to 100. Here is what my data set looks like. Like I said before, my population is 100 with my sample of 10 students. My mean is 59.2 for the sample and 58.8 for the population, and standard deviation for the sample is 23 and population 24. So the statistical test that I used is the one sample z-test, and it's used to investigate the two hypotheses I mentioned earlier, the null hypothesis and directional research hypothesis. And this z-test was chosen to find out if the sample population of the CTE concentrators' proficient test levels in math were different from the population of all students. Interval data was used, which are test scores, and measuring the difference of one dependent variable, which is the math scores of CTE concentrators versus all students. And of course, like mentioned before, the data collected was collected from the results of the North Dakota State Assessment, which is reported within the Performance of CTE Concentrators North Dakota Assessment Report. My findings from this research are below, and it shows that the data for the z-test was entered into SPSS, and the following results are as follows. Inferential statistics are used to come up to the conclusion of our results from the samples and populations I used. And the interpretation of this test is that Z represents the test statistic that was used, the Z-test, and 0.4 is the obtained value. And the results from this indicate that the probability is less than 5% that on the test of the null hypothesis, the sample and the population averages will not differ. The test also comes up with a 1.64 critical value. This value represents the value at which chance is the most attractive explanation of why the sample mean of 59.2 and the population mean of 58.8 mean differ very little. The results of this test also show the obtained value of 0.48 does not exceed the critical value of 1.64. Therefore, the null hypothesis is accepted and the directional research hypothesis is rejected, which shows no difference. This means there is no difference between the proficiency levels of the sample and population. The 10 sample students perform basically at the same level as the population of 100 students. So my conclusions are, as the null hypothesis was accepted in this Z-test, we can assume that CT concentrators in all students score similar in their proficiency level in math, and the sample in this study is a representative of the population. A reason for this could be that students that enroll in CTE programs or courses sometimes come from low socioeconomic status and are disadvantaged youth. Several studies have showed that time spent in CTE courses and working closely with CTE instructors in reading and performing math skills in a field that interests students and motivate them help them improve their math skills. This could be a reason why they test similar or the same as all students. And also, the results of this study could also mean that students enrolled in CTE programs or courses are at the proficiency level as any other student or all students, and there is no difference. So my recommendations, based on the research results in the samples used, a later test could break down nominal data that further testing to include pre-test and post-test for students enrolled in CTE programs or courses. T-test for dependent samples test can help determine if the CTE concentrators and the proficiency levels in math are similar to all students because they are enrolled in these CTE programs or courses. And of course, if the CTE concentrators' proficiency levels are lower or different from all students before starting CTE programs or courses would help determine if being enrolled in the CTE programs or courses help raise the proficiency levels in math. And the following is my reference. Thank you.